The following program, Norml Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, Norml.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of Norml Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of Norml. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents Norml Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, Norml's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes, and welcome. It is Monday, September 19th, 2011, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us for the next 60 minutes of news, talk, interviews, information, music, comedy, and more by, for, and about the cannabis community. We're coming to you live and direct from Rolla J Studios here in beautiful Potland, Oregon, and unfortunately, you can probably see I am sitting in the Pirates chair today. Ganja John can't be with us today because he was hit by a motorist yesterday, hit by a car, believe it or not. Yeah, a lady ran a red light and T-boned him, and he got a little bit of a concussion, so he's taking the day off today. But joining us from our virtual studio in beautiful Grastoria, Oregon is the lovely and talented Cannabis Carrie.
I think you should clarify that a little bit, Russ. It T-boned his car. T-boned his car. He was in the car.
Right.
A car hit the car, not just John.
Right. Not just John, as if he were floating down the road by himself. No. Yes. His car was T-boned. Ganja wife was driving. Apparently roommate was in the back. And, lady, texting on her phone just ran right through a red light, ran right by Ganja John, ran right into him. And, they want to give us DUIs for merely smoking a joint on the weekend. This person's texting and driving and running into Ganja John. So such a shame. We'll welcome him back tomorrow, I'm sure.
Oprah is not pleased.
Oprah will definitely be pissed about this. Cannabis Carrie brings us our hemp headlines right at the beginning of the show. So, Carrie, what's in the news today?
Well, first up, we're going to cover the Boston Freedom Rally that happened this weekend. Also, the Colorado effort to get marijuana legalized has a new endorsement that is pretty big. We're going to look at Montana's cardholder numbers and how they are being affected by that new legislation that was enacted this summer. And also in Michigan, unfortunately, their AG has just decided that property owners can just say no.
Oh, yeah, that's some bad news coming out of Michigan here on the heels of the Cannabis Cup coming up there in a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks out there, High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in Detroit. We'll have some advertisement about that coming up a little bit later in the show. Also hanging out in the studio, New Jersey Leaper, who's off camera, but he's hanging out here in the studio with me as I would be all by myself otherwise, Carrie. But the Leaper's in town, so we're all good.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Welcome, New Jersey Leaper.
Also coming up on today's show, it's Roots Monday, and as you know, Cannabob is on hiatus, and so I'm taking care of Roots Monday today. We're going to bring you some 1940s reefer jazz from Julia Lee and her boyfriends. We've played her before. This song coming up is called I Didn't Like It the First Time, the Spinach Song. So we'll bring that up at 20 after. Then at half past, we got a little time for some grassroots activism. Kelly Maddie from Joplin Norml will be joining us. They have the Cannabis Revival taking place there, 2011 Cannabis Revival. I'll be flying out there this Friday to speak to them, so we won't have a Norml Show Live on Friday. I'll be there on Saturday and in Boise on Sunday, as well as Cannabis Carrie. And then at the end of the show, I got time to rant on the new Uniform Crime Report arrest numbers from the FBI. All that and more coming up today on Norml Show Live.
This is Norml Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Weedmaps.com. I'm Radical Russ from Norml. My job as outreach coordinator, I travel every month, and when I'm on the road, I need a fast, accurate way to find the medical marijuana dispensaries in the area. So I turn to weedmaps.com. Weedmaps.com has the best dispensary locator online or on your mobile device. Search by zip code or let Weedmaps find you, and in seconds you'll have the addresses, phone numbers, and customer service reviews for the medical marijuana dispensaries in the local area. Weedmaps.com also has a section devoted to helping you find a doctor who understands and recommends medical marijuana under your state's law. You can even check prices on the Medical Marijuana Stock Exchange. Coming soon, you'll even be able to find the listings of Norml attorneys and chapters, local head shops and grow shops, and the best weed-friendly businesses. Weedmaps.com has the information you need to be an informed cannabis consumer. Visit Weedmaps.com today, a proud sponsor of the Norml Network.
Inhaling deeply of the sacred smoke.
You're listening to Norml Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that gives us these precious rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search or seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215. Or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's Norml News with Cannabis Carrie.
This weekend was the largest East Coast pro-marijuana rally, the 22nd annual Boston Freedom Rally, held on the Boston Common on Saturday afternoon. Thousands of pro-marijuana citizens filled the square to listen to live music and to protest the federal legalization of marijuana. The federal prohibition of marijuana. Massachusetts decriminalized cannabis up to an ounce back in 2008 and has polled wide support of legalization efforts in the recent years. This year, the rally included 21 musical acts and vendors from Vortex Water Pipes, the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition, Dr. Bronner Soap, and political groups like the Libertarian Party. Also, volunteers campaigning for presidential candidates. The most visible were those canvassing for Representative Ron Paul, the Republican from Texas. Paul, along with Democrat Representative Barney Frank, introduced a bill in Congress this summer that would repeal the federal prohibition of marijuana, leaving it up to the states to decide to criminalize or legalize. Boston police were also on the scene to monitor the event, but attendees smoked marijuana openly during the short 5-hour festival with impunity. The deputy superintendent of the Boston Police Department said that they were only there to ensure public safety and that historically the rally never caused any serious problems for the police.
Yeah, but it did once cause serious problems for Keith Stropp, Norml's founder, and Rick Cusick, the associate publisher of High Times magazine. They were arrested a couple of years ago at the Freedom Rally and made quite a stink about it. Got some tickets and tried to take up a constitutional challenge. But now that they have decriminalization in Boston and in Massachusetts in general, the Freedom Rally has just bloomed. It's just been amazing. I was there a couple of years ago, and it's an amazing event. You know, they set it all up on one day. It's only noon to 6 on Saturdays, so everybody's there, shows up, bands play, 6 o'clock, they're done. By 7 o'clock, that park is empty. So congratulations to all our friends out there at MassCan Norml, all of our friends working there for marijuana law reform on the East Coast, and I'm glad you guys had a great Freedom Rally.
Not surprisingly, the number of cardholders for medical marijuana patients, providers, and caregivers is on the decline in Montana after they implemented strict new rules to the program in July. This summer, legislators passed the controversial Senate Bill 423 in the last few days of the session. It overrode Montana's existing voter initiative medical marijuana law and replaced it with a highly restrictive bill intended to drop the numbers of those on the program from over 30,000 enrolled to a number that legislators saw as an abuse of the intent of the law to under 5,000. The contentious new law has been challenged in the courts in an ongoing battle between activists and opponents of medical marijuana. Now, for the most part, the new law has been held up in the courts, with a few provisions in the law being struck down, such as a ban on advertising of medical marijuana products and services. The greatest victory for advocates of medical marijuana was a provision in the law that would have allowed law enforcement officials to make unannounced inspections of any premise that grows medical marijuana. That part was struck down by District Judge James Reynolds. But with the new pressure on the existing medical marijuana community and the idea in the state that even if voters passed a law, legislatures could come in and recriminalize large parts of it, the numbers of Montanans participating in a regulated medical use only market for marijuana has started its drastic decline. The Department of Health and Human Services told an interim committee of lawmakers this morning that the number of cardholders has already dropped by 15% through August. There are currently fewer than 27,000 cardholders in the state, and that number is expected to continue to drop as cards issued under the old system continue to expire. Interest in the program is still high, though. They did report that there were several hundred applications pending to become providers under the new law. Another provision in the new law that was blocked was to limit the number of patients a provider could have, opening the door for some to grow for several patients. The Montana Cannabis Industry Association is quick to point out that a drop in the number of people enrolled in the Montana medical marijuana program does not mean there are fewer that use marijuana, but it is increasing the number of illegal users in the state. There is an effort to repeal the new medical marijuana law enacted by the legislature this summer. That group is called Patients for Reform, Not Repeal. They are gathering signatures for Referendum 124 that would be on the November 6, 2012 general election ballot, provided they get enough signatures. They state that patients that are the people that are affected most by the actions of the 2011 legislature, so they must have a vote in the discussion. They say voter passed the law in the first place, and they should have a say on any changes that are made in the law. You can find more about their efforts or donate to their cause and find out where you can sign the petition to get it on the ballot in 2012 at patientsreform.org.
You know what make this a whole lot easier for us is if these lawmakers, with all their great experience in medical science and all the studying they did at medical school, it'd be great if these lawmakers would just tell us how many medical marijuana patients there's supposed to be. Right? Because they're always complaining there's too many. Here in Oregon, we got 50,000. Oh, that's too many. In Montana, oh my God, they got 30,000. Oh, that's too many. How many are there supposed to be? Like how many people are supposed to be on Lipitor? How many people are supposed to be on Prozac? How many people are supposed to be on Dilaudid? Because apparently when it comes to medical marijuana, there's some magical number that we keep going past, and it upsets them, and they say there's too many, and they come up with these terrible restrictions. Folks, the only reason they're coming up with these restrictions is because they continue to operate, and we continue to allow them to operate under the frame that marijuana is the medicine of last resort. And it's because of that frame, last resort medicine, that they think, oh, there must be too many people here. Look at all those people. Couldn't they take Vicodin? Couldn't they take some other OxyContin or something instead of that deadly, dangerous, dastardly marijuana? The point is that marijuana should be the medicine of first resort, and the fact that there are tens of thousands of people, and in California, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that want to use cannabis instead of toxic, addictive, side effect-laden pharmaceuticals, that's a good thing. That's not a problem of abuse. That's a situation where people are discovering the healthier alternative, the safer alternative, and choosing to medicate with an herb rather than some terrible man-made addictive toxic pharmaceutical chemical. This is so frustrating about the whole medical marijuana situation, and they keep trying to ratchet it down, tighten it up. And as I've been telling you people, if you keep going for just medical marijuana, they're going to make your marijuana very, very medical.
And last week, the effort in Colorado to regulate marijuana like alcohol got a big endorsement. The ACLU of Colorado announced its endorsement of the campaign that would have Coloradans enjoying legal cannabis like they enjoy legal alcohol. The effort that is sponsored by Safer's Mason Trevert, who we've had interviewed on the show recently, has already passed 60,000 signatures gathered. If it passed in the 2012 election, the effort would remove the penalties for adult possession, limited cultivation and use, and business applications of marijuana, along with the freedom for farmers to grow industrial hemp. It would also become a constitutional amendment, a strategy that activists say has served them well with the legalization of medical marijuana. On their website, the Colorado ACLU states that prohibition is not a sensible way to deal with marijuana, and the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol is intended to move Colorado toward a more rational approach to drug laws. The ACLU also points out the incredible waste of scarce public resources in the criminal justice system by treating cannabis consumers as violent criminals. The ACLU says that supporting legalized marijuana keeps with their mission of promoting and defending an individual's rights and freedoms. The ACLU endorsement comes as a welcome addition for the efforts to legalize marijuana like alcohol in Colorado as the largest organization in the state to do so. It lends credibility to the issue and sends the message that it is a mainstream issue that deserves the voters' attention. You can read the full text of the initiative, donate to the cause, or find out how to get more involved at regulatemarijuana.org. They are trying to get more than 140,000 signatures to ensure they will qualify for the ballot, more than twice they have right now, but they need about 86,000 valid to get on the ballot. So please get involved, sign the initiative if you live in the state. It's very important to sign these petitions whether you plan on voting for them or not. They need to be on the ballot. So that is regulatemarijuana.org.
All right, check that out. And kudos to the ACLU of Colorado for getting on board with this. And I want to see more organizations getting on board with the nascent efforts to legalize in all of these states, Oregon, Washington, California, Colorado, any state that's looking at legalization. It shouldn't just be the ACLU jumping on this. How about the National Rifle Association? I know you're thinking, what? The NRA? But think of how many people's Second Amendment right to bear arms are taken away from them because they have a felony conviction for growing a marijuana plant. How many people, the medical marijuana patients in this state who are under attack by the sheriffs that don't think drug addicts should be allowed to have their firearms. How about the unions? Let's get the unions behind these efforts. How many union workers lose their jobs because of these drug tests that are unnecessary and unscientific? There's so many more organizations that should be involved in ending adult marijuana prohibition. I hope you reach out to the organizations you're a part of and help bring them on board. Together, we can end this.
The Attorney General of Michigan, Bill Schuette, issued an opinion last week that said that the owner of a hotel, motel, or even an apartment building or complex can prohibit the smoking and growing of marijuana plants anywhere within the facility. The state's top lawyer made that legal decision on Thursday, claiming that imposing such a prohibition does not violate the state's Medical Marijuana Act that was approved by voters in 2008. The legal opinion was prompted by Republican Senator Rick Jones, who asked for the input of the Attorney General on the issue. He says that it was demanded by his constituents. In his opinion, Schuette said that property owners can prohibit smoking marijuana or growing marijuana within their privately owned facilities, since all marijuana-related activity remains illegal under the Controlled Substances Act. He said that since the federal government remains free to enforce the criminal provisions of the Controlled Substances Act, that property owners who allow their properties to be used by patients or caregivers for the purpose of using or growing marijuana could be subject to prosecution, civil forfeiture, or other penalties. He also said that smoking marijuana on a property may make the other tenants or guests concerned for their own or their family's personal safety. He said property owners have a right to respect the preferences of other guests and tenants within a facility. He said that marijuana smoke has a strong and distinctive odor which may offend other persons using a facility or discourage future occupancy. He finished up by saying that his conclusion is consistent with the treatment of employers under the MMMA, since employers do not have to accommodate the use of medical marijuana in the workplace or even allow an employee to work under the influence of marijuana. Now, his decision will most likely end up in several court cases later this year.
Yeah, I damn well hope so. First of all, a landlord is not an employer. Let's just get that straight. Using the idea that, oh, well, since employers don't have to accommodate, then landlords don't have to accommodate. That's BS, Attorney General there. You're looking in the wrong law books. And as far as, wanting to restrict people, having landlords restrict people from the use of medicines, what other sort of personal, private things should we allow a landlord to restrict in their place? I'm sorry, I don't like the way you particularly have sex. I find it offensive, and you can't rent here. Oh, I don't like your particular religion. I don't like the way you believe. You light those incenses for your whole Buddhist thing, and it has a distinctive odor that the other residents don't seem to like. Oh, your family's Korean and cooking kimchi. Yeah, that's a terrible, terrible odor. That boiling cabbage odor. The rest of the people don't like that. We can't rent to any Korean people out here, and we certainly got to worry about the danger that's being the danger that other people in the apartment or the hotel might suffer. So we can't rent to any cigarette smokers because of their secondhand smoke. That's really dangerous, and we can't rent to anyone who drinks alcohol, because it's been shown statistically that alcohol leads to domestic violence and crime and other sorts of problems in society. So let's just make it so that landlords can't rent to anybody but Ozzie and Harriet, the nicest families in the world. Let's discriminate against everybody in the state of Michigan, and especially those people who might be treating epilepsy or cancer or AIDS with a plant. Oh, it's sick. We got to take a break here, hanging out with New Jersey Leaper, and when we come back, it's time for Roots Monday. Julia Lee and her boyfriends with some Reefer Jazz. See you in a minute.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Norml Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would say to South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The High Times Medical Cannabis Cup is coming to Detroit on October 15th and 16th. That's right. The world's premier medical marijuana competition will be in Motown to celebrate the cannabis economy of the Great Lakes State. It's a two-day expo at Burt's Warehouse Theater, showcasing the movers and shakers of the Michigan medical marijuana industry and the merchandise that makes the machine go. There will be seminars with leaders of the medical marijuana movement, doctors, patients, researchers, growers, dispensary owners, and activists. Plus, High Times own cultivation editors Danny Danko and Nico Escondido will roll into town with the goods on growing great ganja. Be there for an amazing Saturday night VIP party featuring top musical performances and special guests. High Times will award the Medical Cannabis Cup for top indicas, sativas, hybrids, concentrates, and edibles, entered by Michigan's dispensaries and collectives. Come to Burt's Warehouse Theater on October 15 and 16. Visit medcancup.com for all the details. Celebrate cannabis in Michigan. Celebrate the resurgence of Detroit. Be part of the growing cannabis community.
I'm Alan St. Pierre, Executive Director of Norml. Have you heard about the new super pot that's supposedly 20 times more potent than your father's Woodstock weed? Don't believe the hype. Marijuana's THC potency has always varied, even in the 60s and 70s. And the drug czar's numbers are full of, well, exaggerations. While no intoxicant is harmless, cannabis is non-toxic and far safer than alcohol. No matter how much you smoke, of whatever potency, you cannot die of a marijuana overdose. Potency is irrelevant anyway. More potent pot just means you smoke less of it, meaning less harmful smoke in your lungs. This is a prime example of harm reduction in action. Besides, the government already allows the prescription of THC pills. Its commercial brand name is Marinol, and it's 100% potent. Meanwhile, the federal government won't allow dying people to use natural marijuana, no matter what the potency. Does this make sense to you? Learn the facts about pot. Visit norml.org today.
A wise freak once said, "Weed will get you through times of no money better than money will get you through times of no weed." Me, I prefer to have both money and weed.
In today's busy world, we're inundated by advertising for all types of pharmaceuticals that come with a laundry list of potential side effects. Shouldn't you have better medical choices? Natural alternatives to pills pushed by Big Pharma? At Alternative Medical Choices, you could choose natural, safe, and effective alternative therapies that are right for your budget without nasty side effects. Cannabis, or marijuana, has been a legal medicine in the Pacific Northwest since 1998. Our doctors will help determine your qualifications for a medical marijuana recommendation in Oregon, no matter where you live. Our massage therapists will ease your aches and stress with soothing hemp seed oil or cannabis-infused massage salves. We also offer acupuncture, Reiki, and other alternative health therapies. Call Alternative Medical Choices in Portland, Oregon at 503-288-5579 or visit our website at www.altmedchoices.com. We specialize in out-of-state recommendations. That's www.altmedchoices.com or call 503-288-5579.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Roots Monday, our celebration of the music that evolved into the popular modern music of today. We pick the best of blues, country, folk, and jazz with a 420 feel and serve it up for you every Monday. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Norml Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, folks, welcome back. I'm so pleased to be able to take over the Roots Monday duties for a little while because I love this music, and especially the reefer jazz music and the reefer blues that go all the way back to the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. And today we bring you some music from Julia Lee. Now, Julia Lee was born on Halloween Day in 1902 in Boonville, Missouri. Kind of appropriate since I'm headed out to Joplin, Missouri this weekend, and we've got Kelly Maddie from Missouri on the air today. So from Boonville, Missouri, she was raised in Kansas City, began her career in about 1920, singing and playing piano. She recorded in 1927, the very first time, and began a solo career in 1935. By 1944, she had a recording contract with Capitol Records and a whole bunch of R&B hits that followed, including Gotta Gimme What You Got, which was a number 3 hit, Snatch and Grab It, which was a number 1 hit, King Size Papa, a number 1 R&B hit, and then today's song, which we'll be playing for you, I Didn't Like It the First Time, The Spinach Song, which went number 4 in 1949. Julia Lee's trademark was her double entendre songs, or as she once called it, the songs my mother taught me not to sing. The songs were credited to Julia Lee and her boyfriends, some session musicians that included Jay McShann, Vin Dickinson, Benny Carter, Red Norvo, Nappy Lamar, and Red Nichols. Her hits dried up after about 1949, but she continued to be one of the most popular performers in Kansas City till her death at the age of 56 in 1958 from a heart attack in San Diego, California. So without further ado, we turn over to the Reefer Jazz. This is Julia Lee and her boyfriends with I Didn't Like It the First Time, the Spinach Song. And remember, they're not really talking about spinach.
Spinach has vitamin A, B, and D, but spinach never appealed to me. But one day while having dinner with a guy, I decided to give it a try. I didn't like it the first time, it was so new to me. I didn't like it the first time, I was so young, you see. I used to run away from the stuff, but now somehow I can't get enough. I didn't like it the first time, oh how it grew on me. I didn't like it the first time, I had it on a date. Although the first was the worst time, right now I think it's great. Somehow it's always hitting the spot, especially when they bring it in hot. I didn't like it the first time, but oh how it grew on me. Time, I thought it was so strange. I wasn't getting much younger, so I just made the change. No longer is the stuff on the shelf, 'cause now I make a pig of myself. I didn't like it the first time, but oh how it grew on me. The first time when I was just 16, I didn't like it the first time, guess I was mighty green. But I've stocked up 'cause I've gotten wise, I got enough for 24 guys. I didn't like it the first time, but oh how it grew on me. I didn't like it the first time, but oh how it grew on me.
You want a copy of that song for your iPod? Check out the Daily Toker Tunes at the Stash blog by surfing to stash.norml.org and choosing Media, and then Toker Tunes from the main menu.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit MarijuanaIsSafer.com.
I'm a doctor.
I'm a lawyer.
I'm a journalist.
I'm a student.
I'm a teacher.
I'm a representative.
I have cancer.
The outdated laws of prohibition are more dangerous than the plant itself.
I lost my scholarship.
I was fired.
20 million arrests since 1965. This is getting ridiculous.
Our prisons are overcrowded with non-violent offenders.
We have the opportunity to change.
This is costing our country billions of dollars.
Making my family and I fight in a courtroom is difficult enough when I'm already fighting through chemotherapy.
There's no reason to be scared by tradition anymore.
We can stop this.
We can stop this.
We are the American people.
We can stop this.
And you have our support.
We're old,
young,
straight,
gay.
We're every race and nationality.
And we're not going to give up.
You can tax it.
You can regulate it.
Apply age restrictions.
You can create millions of new jobs.
We can save our economy.
President Obama?
It's time for legalization.
Legalization.
Yes.
We
can.
Haven't seen anything like this since Anita Bryant cut.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
Norml, unlike any other marijuana or drug reform organization, is built from the ground up by grassroots activists. We are the Marijuana Smokers Lobby, and we aren't just anti-prohibition, we're pro-marijuana. Every week, we take some time to talk to the citizens of local Norml chapters across the country and around the world, as well as others who are working to make a difference in the fight to end adult marijuana prohibition. In this segment we call Grassroots Activism.
All right, folks, more travels on the way for yours truly here. I'm headed down to Joplin, Missouri this weekend, Saturday, for the Cannabis Revival 2011. And joining us by telephone to tell us more about it is the executive director of Joplin Norml at joplin-norml.org. It's Kelly Maddie. Hi, Kelly. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Russ? Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you here, and I hope you're doing better than the last time I heard from you, which was when those terrible tornadoes were striking Missouri and quite literally destroying your house. I mean, there is no house left, right?
Right. Well, I mean, we have a start to a new house now, so that can kind of tell you how far along we've come here in Joplin over the last 4 months since the tornado. We had my brother and I, Kyle, who also serves as the president of the Students for Sensible Drug Policy chapter at Missouri Southern State University. Him and I live right next to each other, and our block, as well as about a half a mile wide stretch, was just completely wiped from the face of the earth for about 10 miles here in Joplin. So, but, you know, we've come a long way. We've got a lot cleaned up, and we're already rebuilding, so.
Yeah, you sent me a picture. Kelly sent me a picture here, and when I first looked at the picture, I saw this house in the background. I said, "Oh yeah, that looks pretty bad." He goes, "No. In front of that, that's my house. Oh, you mean where there's nothing? Yeah, so I mean, nothing but like the foundation, a couple of pipes sticking up. So I'm glad things are turning out better for you guys, getting rebuilt and everything. How has the support from the community been? What's it been like in Joplin trying to recover from these tornadoes?
It's been great. There's, I think, along with the rest of my age group and probably, people that are involved in more cultural aspects of things here I've always kind of talked, crap on Joplin as far as it not being a place where they want to live the rest of their life. But after seeing kind of how everybody came together, and we all rallied and pulled each other out of the rubble and, we were able to rely on each other for relief efforts before really anything official or government sponsored really got underway here in Joplin. So, seeing that in the community is, as much as I am not an organized religion person, seeing the churches doing what they're supposed to be doing and taking care of people in the community, it's really heartwarming. So we're doing good. We have, a lot of our businesses are rebuilding. We have some very interesting things going on as far as the logistics for rebuilding and streetscaping, incorporating more green energy ideas and LEED certified ideas in architecture here. So I think we have a lot of good things going for us. That it's horrible that it took all this to happen, but it's also a silver lining that we get a brand new start like this too. So.
Yeah, just turning it all around. That sounds good. Now, Kelly, as far as this cannabis revival goes, let's tell people the details on it. Where is it at? What time? What do they need to know?
Sure. The Cannabis Revival, it's our 12th year in Joplin. It's at Landreth Park Amphitheater, which is in North Joplin, part of the city that wasn't affected by the storms in May. It's on September 24th, this Saturday. It starts at 12 o'clock. It'll go all the way till 11 o'clock, and we'll also be having an after party at a local venue, the Kitchen Pass Patio, which will have more music and more information and merchandise, that kind of thing. But there'll be bands all day. We have a website, cannabisrevival.com, which will show you the full lineup of speakers. Yours truly, Russ Belvo, will be there emceeing, and you're going to be speaking later that night. Amber Langston, campaign director from Show Me Cannabis Regulation. We actually have some elected officials from Missouri, Springfield, Missouri City Councilman Doug Burleson, and I'll actually have some other Joplin City Councilmen in attendance but not speaking. Ethan Thampy from Americans for Forfeiture Reform, working on forfeiture issues that are associated with the drug war. Attorney and Norml board member Dan Vietz, a Missouri Norml coordinator, will be there. Ryan Denham, who is heading up the Arkansas medical marijuana campaign for Arkansans for Compassionate Care, will be speaking, as well as Mark Peterson from Sensible, Missouri, and Mitch Richards from Fully Informed Jury Association. And we have music, all different kinds, all day long, some great regional acts, and some great community art, and over 40 vendors, so it should be a good time. We always draw a really large crowd.
Yeah. All right. So as far as the politics go here in Joplin, you mentioned, I heard a couple things in there, Show Me Cannabis Regulation and Sensible Missouri. What's happening politically here to change marijuana laws?
Well, we've been doing, the things that the local chapters are always doing, small educational events, getting people organized and interested in marijuana law reform. But over the last couple months, Norml board member Dan Vietz, myself, Amber Langston, formerly of SSDP and a Missouri native, have all started working on an initiative that we filed with the Secretary of State for complete legalization of hemp industries, recreational 21 and older use, as well as medical applications for patients that are less than 21 years of age. And we have that at show-me-cannabis.com or .org. Both will bring it up, and you can read the initiative text on there. We have two initiatives filed. One's a constitutional amendment, and one's a statutory amendment. Of course, the constitutional will be quite a bit tougher to get through with the increased amount of signatures, but it also gives us a little bit of protection against our legislature here, which has been vehemently against any kind of reform measures, essentially cabling and not even considering our medical marijuana bill that's been introduced for the last 5 years consistently. So we figure it's time to give it a shot and try to take this to the people because obviously our legislature isn't listening to us. So this is kind of what we've came up with, and we think it's some pretty solid text. A lot of it's based off the new Colorado language. and some other tailored things that we thought would be strong political points here in Missouri, such as a strong states' rights portion of the initiative, verifying that Missouri has the right to do what they wish with the marijuana laws and doesn't have to enforce federal laws. And we have a strong agricultural community here, so I think there's a lot of that in the industrial hemp aspect of it that we can really play on messaging, and we're hopeful. So we're going to be hearing back from that hopefully in the next week or two as far as certification from the Secretary of State.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to that. And, we just had our Portland Hemp Stock a couple weekends ago, and there was a member of Show Me Cannabis that came out and spoke on one of the Hemposium panels, John Payne, I think his name was. And he, in talking to him privately, he said what I've heard from a lot of people, and that is that the politicians in your state, the legislature, are far behind where the people are on this issue. Have you done polling of the people of Missouri to find out what their support is for medical marijuana, and how sanguine are you on the chances of getting these on the ballot and passing them?
Well, I'm a political realist, and I understand that for full tax and regulation, we are going to, of course, have some issues with public polling. But what's the bright spot is we've seen through our polling over the last 3 or 4 years when we've been working towards our medical issue, we've had tax and regulation in a variety of ways being asked on some of that polling, and we've seen a consistent rise as we've seen it throughout nationally of about 9 to 10 points here in Missouri, going up to 45% now for support of fully taxing and regulating marijuana. So while that isn't a winning number and it's not the golden number that we need to pass a campaign, of course, we hope public education will at least give us a formidable campaign, and if anything, move our messaging up the field so that way for later on when we can establish ourselves a little bit more, we have a better shot at it. But that doesn't mean we aren't going to be trying our darndest to get this on the ballot. We do have some funding through a funder for the PAC that we've established here, Show Me Cannabis Regulation. So we are cautiously optimistic that we will have funding to complete the signature drive and possibly place this on the ballot for November 2012. And with the tax and reg campaign, I mean, in the middle of the heartland, it's definitely not a shoo-in, but we're interested to see what we can do with our messaging and if we have a fighting chance to get this thing passed here.
Yeah. Well, we hope you're fighting for it, and when people bring these initiatives up in states like, I'm going to Idaho as well that weekend, and we talk about Idaho and Missouri and Oklahoma and all these states that most people that are reformers, especially on the West Coast or East Coast, might look at and go, no way in hell, no chance in hell we're ever going to get anything there. Let's not concentrate there. And I always think that's a mistake, because I believe that when we're talking about it, we're winning. And all that needs to happen in some of these states, especially the more conservative states, is for the conversation to begin. And I like what you mentioned earlier about focusing on how you would pass this in a more conservative, more rural, more, if you'd call it red state, by focusing on things like states' rights issues. Are there other ways that you guys have planned on, promoting these messages with respect to the Missouri population that might be different than how we do it out here on the West Coast?
Sure. I think, it may not be so much different, but I think the public safety component of a tax and regulation initiative in a state like Missouri is essential. Because when, the fence sitters like the soccer moms and the soccer dads that really don't care one way or the other about marijuana, all they know is they don't want their young children to have access to it, we want to say, look, these laws are making your children have access to marijuana. They're making it more dangerous for your children. If we tax and regulate this and put the current system on it, Missouri would be a safer state with money spent on the appropriate criminal justice policies that make us a great state that we are. And there's other aspects of being able to tout the individual liberty aspect of making your own choices as long as you're not harming somebody else. A lot of that resonates with some of the more libertarian-leaning Republicans and libertarians here in the state of Missouri. And to be honest, a lot of that's really starting to, that argument as far as individual liberty and as far as, having the government, involved in too much already, I think is really kind of starting to grasp, cross-party. It's something that the American people are really starting to get, I think, as a whole. And I think it points it helps us, our argument, to really point those things out that are traditionally conservative or, more libertarian-leaning principles. So.
All right. We're speaking with Kelly Maddie, the executive director of Joplin Norml. Kelly, give out the website, phone number, any sort of the contact info that people need for both Joplin Norml and for the Cannabis Revival.
Sure. Our number for both, the chapter and the event, it's a Google Voice number, so it'll go to our digital voicemail boxes. It's 417-501-5558, and we can return your call, and you can also text to that number. You can visit us on cannabisrevival.com, and that has links to all of our social networks. We're very responsive digitally, so if you need to reach us about inquiries before the event on Saturday, be sure to send us a note on there or on our Facebook, and we'll be sure to promptly get back to you. But any and all information for the event is on that website. I don't think we've left any stone unturned. But if anything does pop out, you can be sure to reach us through there as well.
All right. It's the Cannabis Revival this weekend, this Saturday, from noon till 11 p.m. Central Time. I will be there. The entire lineup is available at cannabisrevival.com. And I will try to stream. What we're doing out there. And if we're unable to stream, we will just record what we can and bring it to you on next week's editions of Norml Show Live. And Kelly, Maddie, give my best to your brother and your family, and best of luck to you on rebuilding after those tornadoes.
Thank you. And I want to say real quick, I want to say thank you to you, Russ, and everybody else, Garrett Overstreet at Tulsa Norml, that pulled together, mere hours after that tornado came through our house, and pulled together and raised some much-needed funds for us to secure rental cars, to get some clothes back on our backs, and to just to even eat. So I want to really say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for what you guys did and pulled together for us and my family here in Joplin. So.
Hey, it's my pleasure to do so. And, I really mean it when I say take care of each other, tokers. That's what it's all about, man.
For sure.
All right. Thanks, Kelly, and I'll see you this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. See you this weekend.
All right. When we come back, we've got some radical rant time. The FBI has released the new marijuana arrest numbers for 2010, and you can bet I've got something to say about it. We're back right after this.
Cannabis, pot, just say no.
No matter what you call it, it's a huge part of popular culture.
Where'd you learn that, Cheech?
Drug school. You don't need weed school. You just need a copy of the new book, Pot Culture, the A to Z Guide to Stoner Language and Life.
Hey, this is great, man.
Even if you never smoked marijuana.
I never used marijuana. Sorry.
Don't think you smoked marijuana.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two and didn't inhale.
Or you used to smoke marijuana.
I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Pot Culture by former High Times editor Steve Bloom and Shirley Halperin will answer every question you ever had about marijuana culture.
Has that marijuana made it back up here yet?
Check out Pot Culture, the A to Z Guide to Stoner Language and Life at Amazon.com or visit potculturebook.com today.
Too bad, man. I just stopped smoking yesterday.
Sir, do you think there will or should come a time for us to discuss the possibility of legalization, regulation, and control of all drugs, thereby doing away with the violent criminal market as well as a major source of funding for international terrorism? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is a entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Name the time and place, Mr. President. At Norml, we've been prepping for this debate for 40 years.
You're listening to 1 hour of random daily toker tunes, the best of Roots Monday, Electric Tuesday, Irie Wednesday, Groovin' Thursday, and a double dose of Rockin' Friday. Our show replay begins at the top of the hour. It's tough talking to kids about marijuana, especially if you might be a parent who dabbled a time or two in your youth. So to help you out, get your copy of Dr. Mitch Earlywine's latest book, A Parent's Guide to Marijuana. Dr. Earlywine is an associate professor of psychology at the State University of New York at Albany and an expert on the studies concerning marijuana, its effect on health and society, and the methodology behind the statistics. He is a frequent guest here on our daily audio stash. Dr. Earlywine lays it all out without the propaganda and scare tactics that parents know won't work with teenagers. He presents a rational understanding of cannabis, what it is and what it isn't, and why kids shouldn't be using marijuana. You can order today through Amazon.com or check our links at our blog, stash.norml.org.
You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Well, the latest FBI uniform crime report numbers are out for 2010, and if you were hoping for change we can believe in, there's not much change to report. Police made 853,838 arrests in 2010 for marijuana-related offenses, according to the FBI's annual uniform crime report. This is a decrease of about 4,500 arrests. So really, statistically, not much of a decrease at all. According to the report, marijuana arrests now comprise more than one half, or 52%, of all drug arrests in the United States. An estimated 46% of all drug arrests are for offenses related to marijuana possession. Of those charged with marijuana law violations, 750,591, or 88%, were charged and were arrested for marijuana offenses involving possession only. The remaining 103,247 individuals were charged with sale or manufacture, a category that includes virtually all cultivation arrests. Now, I wanted to give you a look at this because you know me, I can't resist putting up a chart. This is the chart of those arrests showing that the war on drugs is actually a war on marijuana. If you can see this here, what we've got is 45.8% of the arrests in the war on drugs having to do with marijuana possession, 750,000 of them. Marijuana sales and cultivation, 6.3% of arrests. And on this chart, I've given you in dark gray the arrests for all other drugs. Heroin and cocaine, 16.4% for possession. Other drugs, 15% for possession. And what we find by looking at these numbers is, yes, marijuana arrests have gone down by 4,600, but all other drug arrests have gone down by 20,000, 4.5 times the decrease in the arrests for other drugs as for marijuana. Meaning that compared to last year, marijuana arrests made up 51.6% of all arrests on the war on drugs. This year, marijuana arrests are making up 52.8% of all of the arrests in the war on drugs. So despite Mr. Obama's protestations to the contrary, marijuana is more and more a part of the war on drugs. He's locking up and arresting more marijuana consumers than consumers of other drugs by proportion. And when we look at the proportion of drug arrests for possession versus manufacture, when it comes to marijuana, many, many more people are arrested for possession than are arrested for other drugs for possession. With marijuana, 88% of the arrests are possession only. With all other drugs, it's about 75% of the arrests that are possession only. So not only is it a war on marijuana, but primarily a war on marijuana consumers. We can see this in the arrest chart since 1970. What you're looking at are all the marijuana arrests in America since 1970, with 853,839 in the year 2010. This gives us a total of 21,673,158 people arrested for marijuana since 1970. Over 21.6 million arrests since 1970. And breaking those numbers down, we see some more information as we get out to the different areas of the country and how much more they are fighting marijuana than they are fighting other drugs. The total for the United States of marijuana possession arrests is 45.8%. But when we look in the Midwest, 53.9% of all arrests for drugs are for marijuana possession alone. Another 9.6 arrests for the manufacture of marijuana, meaning that we have just about 63% of the arrests in the war on drugs. Now, I'm sorry, make that 64%, 64.5%. Nearly 2 out of 3 arrests in the Midwest in the war on drugs are for marijuana. And it's not much better in the South. With the South, again, the majority of all drug arrests are for marijuana possession, 51.5%. Add on another 5.4 for manufacture, and we've got about 57% of the people in the South being arrested for marijuana. Now, marijuana arrests are lowest in the West, not surprisingly. Only 33% of all drug arrests in the West are for marijuana possession, with another 5.5% for the growing of marijuana, making about 39% of all arrests in the West are for marijuana. Now, compare that to the arrests for cocaine or other dangerous drugs, which are about 21% and 27% respectively. And we find that in the West, marijuana is much less a part of this war on drugs than it is everywhere else in the country. And a lot of this has to be put at the doorstep, laid at the doorstep of the medical marijuana laws. The fact that we have Californians, Oregonians, Washingtonians, Montanans, Nevadans, New Mexicans, Coloradans, who are all immune from arrest for their possession of marijuana. And that makes these statistics even that more frightening. You know, for those that would say, well, the arrests aren't going up for marijuana, consider all of the people that are protected by medical marijuana laws, and yet arrests still stay steady or go up. For example, if we have 50,000 medical marijuana patients here in the state of Oregon, that's 50,000 people that can't be arrested for marijuana, and yet marijuana arrests in my state of Oregon continue to go up. The same story can be told in California, where there's anywhere from 750,000 to 1.125 million medical marijuana patients who are immune from arrests, and yet the arrest numbers in California remain steady or go up. So we have to imagine that without the 16 states and the District of Columbia that recognize medical marijuana, these marijuana arrest numbers would be much, much greater than they are today, maybe even approaching 1 million arrests. So when the federal government wants to turn to you and say that we don't really lock up marijuana consumers, we really don't go after marijuana, you can just look at these numbers and point them back to them and show them that yes, indeed, we do go after marijuana consumers, and we go after them more so than we go after consumers of any other illicit substance in this country. Now, a lot of our opponents will also point out that these medical marijuana states might be a bad message for the children, but looking at the latest numbers from the government as well on the National Survey of Drug Use and Health, we find that marijuana use rates have gone down for the population as a whole, for teenagers especially, and more so in the medical marijuana states than they have gone down in the other states. Now, for some scary numbers to put to you from this FBI Uniform Crime Report, they also track violent crime in America. How much violent crime do we have in America? And for the sixth straight year, we have had a decrease in total violent crime arrests, down to 552,077 arrests for violent crime. However, that does not mean there is less violent crime. In fact, violent crime rose last year from 1.13 million crimes reported by police to 1.246 million crimes reported by police. What this breaks down to is if we look at how many arrests we had versus how many violent crimes we had, we are now arresting less than half of the people involved in violent crimes. That is, less than half of the violent crimes result in arrest in America. 44.3% of all violent crimes reported to police resulted in an arrest. Now, last year that was 51.45%. For the 3 years prior to that, it was below 50%. And looking back through this chart all the way back to the 1970s, it's rare. In fact, we never find any number greater than 58% of violent crimes turning out to an arrest. So when we have less than half of our violent crimes leading to arrest, do our police really have the time to be shaking down college kids with a dime bag? When we have less than 1/4 of all rapes leading to a criminal conviction, do we really have the time and the resources for our police officers to be shaking up black and brown kids in the ghettos and shaking them down for a marijuana possession arrest? Because that's primarily who's getting arrested for this as well. I say no. I say it is time to start putting some of this effort from trying to stop people and futilely trying to stop people, over 25 million people in this country, from smoking marijuana this year. Rather than putting all our effort toward that, how about we put some of that effort towards solving these violent crimes? How about we get that arrest rate for violent crime up above 60% for once? How about we start protecting and serving the people in this country rather than searching and arresting the people in this country? These FBI Uniform Crime Report numbers are available up at our blog at stash.norml.org. You can also look at the Norml website, norml.org, for Paul Armentano's write-up on these figures. Enough is enough. This is not the change I voted for. This is not what I was hoping for. This is not the change I can believe in. Mr. Obama, it's time to take marijuana out of the war on drugs and put those resources toward real crimes. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us here in the studio, hanging out here with New Jersey Leaper. We're going to call it a day. For those of you listening on the podcast, we'll be back tomorrow with more news and interviews you can use. There will be no show on Friday. I'm flying out to Joplin, Missouri. On Saturday, check the stream to see if I'm able to get you some live coverage at the Cannabis Revival. Check Sunday to see if I can get you live coverage of the Idaho Hope Fest, Idaho's first hemp fest. And for Cannabis Carry, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is Norml Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Take it on one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down.